Did you know employees who feel their skills aren't being put to good use are 10 times more likely to look for a new job? By empowering your learners to grow, you can help retain talent in your organization. That's why we're introducing career development features in LinkedIn Learning Hub. Together, with our high-quality courses, comprehensive skills data, and full talent ecosystem, you can connect learning to real career growth. Now, when learners set their career goals in LinkedIn Learning Hub, they'll receive personalized content recommendations. And you can help them explore internal career paths with role guides, customizable to specific roles in your organization. Guide them to relevant learning based on their skill level, with skill evaluations. And promote internal mobility by surfacing jobs at your organization within their learning experience. Explore these new features and help your learners achieve their career goals with LinkedIn Learning Hub, the skill-building solution with data and insights from the world's largest professional network.
Hello, Africa. Hello, Malawi, Tanzania, Uganda, Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, wherever you're watching from. A very good morning to you. Coming to you live from Dublin, Ireland. A very good morning to you, and welcome to this, our show on the LinkedIn 2024 Workplace Learning Report. And of course, as we do every single week when we do these sessions, we start off by introducing ourselves. So tell me where you're watching from so that, of course, I can shout out your city, your town, and maybe even give your workplace a shout out as we begin this live stream where we talk, of course, about what are the skills most in demand and how can learning and development professionals edge forward in this fast changing world that we're in. Welcome to the Workplace Learning Report. As I said earlier on, allow me please to start off by introducing myself and welcoming you to this session. My name is Stuart Samkange, originally from Zimbabwe, currently broadcasting live out of Dublin, Ireland, to you around the world. At LinkedIn, I have the opportunity, the pleasure, and the honor of working with higher educational institutions, nonprofits, and of course, working with the healthcare sector to help them with a number of initiatives. Last week on Thursday, we talked about how to elevate your hiring game. That is just but one of the areas that I get to help these organizations with, which is, of course, how you go about planning, attracting, branding, and hiring talent into your organization. But today and this week, we're going to be focusing on learning and skills that are required in the world of work today. So with that being said, I would like to welcome on board today those of you who are learning and development professionals, organizational development professionals, talent management professionals, HR, and of course, even those of you who are in talent acquisition who definitely need to be working closer with L&D as the road ahead in terms of hiring and bringing talent into our organization now stretches beyond just looking externally, but also looking internally, as our next best hire could be someone internal in our organization. In this live stream, of course, you get the opportunity to ask questions. So feel free to ask questions as we go along. I was supposed to be having a co-host today, but unfortunately, he's not feeling well. So we will have a session with Joao coming up later on in this year as we go along with these live streams. But for the sake of continuity, let us continue today to focus on the Workplace Learning Report and, of course, what that encompasses and what that means to you as learning and development professionals. What is the Workplace Learning Report? Well, the Workplace Learning Report is actually a combination of a number of activities. LinkedIn gets to interview learning and development professionals around the world. LinkedIn gets to tap into the data that we're seeing off our LinkedIn.com platform, showing the skills that companies are struggling or are succeeding in hiring for. We get to tap into the data, of course, in terms of some of the learning that is being consumed by you, our precious members on this platform. And with that combination of data, we put together the LinkedIn 2024 Workplace Learning Report, which starts giving us some indications on how learning and development professionals can start adapting for the future that's right ahead of us. In terms of the future, well, let's start by going back to the future by looking at what we covered last week on Thursday. And last week on Thursday, what we covered was, of course, how you can elevate your hiring game. And in terms of elevating your hiring game, we covered the most in demand skills for our recruiting community. So, those were talent acquisition, sourcing, talent management professionals. These were the most sought out and most in demand skills for our recruiters. And as we said, a big emphasis there on growing our human skills. But in order for us to continue, let us now start focusing more broadly beyond just looking at our recruiters, but looking at what skills are required by learning and development professionals, what learning and development professionals can do in terms of coaching and supporting and mentoring, and of course, assisting our leaders and our employees grow. This would not be a learning and development session unless I started it off with a pop quiz. So, with that in mind, here's my first question for you and those of you who are watching online right now. The question is whether you're able to tell if this statement is true or false. The statement reads here: skill sets for jobs have changed by a factor of 15% since 2015. By 2027, this number is expected to grow by a factor of 20%. All I'm asking for you to do is to get into the chat right now and tell me if you firmly believe this statement is true or false. Because what it will start doing is giving us an idea of your perception of the learning and development marketplace. Well, there you go. That statement was false. Skill sets for jobs across all jobs have changed by a factor of around 25% since 2015, and that this number is set to double by 2027. So, skills for jobs are rapidly changing, and those skills are being driven, of course, by the changing world around us. But what is the changing world around us? And how do we get to know more about the changing world around us? We do that first by looking at the state of learning and development across the world and start deep diving into some of the narratives and the changes that we're seeing that might impact how you go about putting together your learning and development programs. Let's see what are some of the changes that we've observed so far. The first one, in terms of learning and development focus, what we've seen is that year on year, the need for us to align our learning initiatives to business programs and business outcomes or business goals, that has not changed, and that continues to remain the number one priority. The need for us as learning and development professionals to upskill our employees or to build a continuous culture of lifelong learning, that continues across our organizations. But what has changed is that since last year, we have seen something rise up from a position of number 9 priority to number 4 priority. And what is that? That is, of course, the fact that people these days, our employees, are seeking more help from us in terms of managing and developing their careers. This particular area, helping employees develop and develop and monitor the growth of their careers, was number 9 in terms of importance when we look at last year. When we get into this year, as we go with the survey, this has risen up to be the 4th most important area for focus in terms of learning and development professionals. With that said, and with that in mind, what else has changed as we start thinking about the state of learning and development across the world? What we've also noted, beyond the need for people to want support around growing their own particular careers, is that they want to grow their careers around certain areas and driven by certain factors. What are they particularly interested in learning? Well, when we did this research, 4 in 5 professionals that we spoke to have a heavy interest in wanting to know more about artificial intelligence and how it will impact their jobs. What we also found is that when our learners put together career goals and document these career goals, they are 4 times more likely to engage with learning and development initiatives than those who don't document their ultimate goals. So, as learning and development professionals, then maybe our focus should be a combination of ensuring that our employees are receiving artificial intelligence learning and training that supports them in their role, and at the same time, that these objectives, these goals are baked into, of course, the career goals for those individuals. Because what we found is when it's baked into their career goals, they're 4 times more likely to engage with the learning platform than when they're not. What's more, we've also found that from a state of learning and development, the number one area of focus for you as organizations, especially in this macroeconomic environment, is for you to retain some of that top talent that you have within your organization. So, with that in mind, what would be my first 2 tips for you going forward as learning and development professionals? My first 2 top tips as learning and development professionals is that maybe you should be focusing right now going forward in terms of skills retention. But in terms of skills retention, going about it with a different perspective, a different way of looking at it. What you should be doing is building up learning and development programs that not only excite, but that reward those employees who are going about developing their own individual skills to grow their careers, and as well as ensuring that these skills are aligned to the business outcomes and the business objectives that you have. Because when these two come together, it increases your competitiveness as an organization. Of course, the workplace learning report that I'm talking about, we won't be able to go through it all online today in this live stream, but we will be able to share some of these. We will be able to share at the end of this live stream the workplace learning report so you can look at it in detail for yourself. Let's continue. So we talked about the state of learning and development, and of course the areas that are important. We've talked, of course, about career development and the need for people to feel supported, fast rising up. We've talked, of course, about aligning our learning and development initiatives to our business outcomes and our business goals. That does not change. What does change or requires for us to have a bit more agility in terms of the world going forward is around the development of skills itself. Let's do a quick check-in with those of you who are watching online around your impression around skills agility and maybe your impressions around, of course, skills development. So here's another true or false statement that I'm putting up on screen for you to just answer in the comments or in the chat whether you believe this is true or false. It says here, 52% of learning and development professionals agree that proactively building an employee's skills for tomorrow will help navigate the evolving future of work. So that's the question for you. Do 52% of learning and development professionals agree that proactively building an employee's skills for tomorrow will help navigate the evolving future of work? Well, let's see. The answer is false. It's actually 88% of learning and development professionals that firmly believe that proactively building an employee's skills will help them build skills for tomorrow and help us navigate the future of work. I hope you're finding this interesting and that you're actively engaged as we go through what are some of the findings in LinkedIn's research around workplace learning. I'm happy to share these workplace learning reports with you and give you a QR code at the end so that you can go into this in deep dive for yourself. But let's continue to look at the report and see some of the highlights of the report and what it means to you. In terms of some of the top reasons around why people are spending time developing and spending time learning and investing in themselves, here are some of the top 8 reasons why people are investing in learning. When you look at these reasons that are showing themselves right here on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll notice that these are all centered around the employee and the employee's personal growth and development. Because what it tells me here is that the reasons why people are spending time in investing in learning and development is that 1, They want to ultimately help grow their own careers and achieve their career goals. Number two, it's helping them stay up to date in an industry in which they're operating in. And number three, it's aligned to their interests and their things that they're passionate about. So, what does that mean for us as learning and development professionals? What this means for us as learning and development professionals is that if we're truly to succeed in developing a culture of lifelong learners, then we must build learning and development programs that can be customized or tailor made to the individual so that it excites them to awaken that interest in their own career, in their own profession, and becoming a subject matter expert in the area in which they operate in. Additional reasons around what else is driving people to learning, of course, will be available as you go through this report later on at your own pace. What I wanted to do now was to take a turn in terms of starting to advise you as learning and development professionals around going forward. What are some of the areas that you can focus on that will give you the highest amount of return as an organization? Going forward, what we did is we interviewed, of course, learning and development professionals from around the world. What we were trying to interview and find out was who amongst our clients had a mature career development focus and exactly what were they focusing on in order to drive career development. What we found is that in our audience, 40% of our clients had what we deemed as mature career development environments, and that in those environments, the areas that provided the biggest return was a focus around leadership development programs, the need, of course, to start sharing and developing people for internal opportunities, for mentorship and coaching of employees, and of course, internal mobility, which is speaking to promotions and ability for people to rise into new roles. And then what we did then was also to reflect and say, in our organizations, since we have 5 generations of individuals or 5 generations working with us, which generation has a propensity to adapt more time towards learning, and which generation firmly believes that by focusing on learning and development, one is more likely to explore and grow in their career? Well, surprise, surprise, Gen Z, who typically start in our organization at the beginning of our careers, are the generation that has a high propensity and an affinity towards learning and development. So if you are looking to attract, if you are looking to hire, if you are looking to retain Gen Z in your organization, then what you should be putting front and center as some of the benefits to support this generation is, of course, the ability for them to enhance and grow their own individual skills. What's more, it pays for you also to clearly outline for them what career paths exist for them in your organization. Unfortunately, today we won't be able to do the live demo, but one of the things I wanted to show with the live demonstration is the fact that today on LinkedIn Learning, you're able to highlight for people, your staff, your employees, your leaders, that when other people have been in similar roles to themselves and have had similar skills, when they have gone into their next roles, what skills did they develop and how successful were they in getting those new economic opportunities? So it's important for us to highlight for our Gen Z or for our employees a reason why they should invest in learning. And that reason why they should invest in learning truly shows itself when, if I am on the learning platform, I can see jobs that are being advertised in my company and I'm being driven to apply for those roles so that I can be considered for promotion or for upgrade into those particular roles. So Gen Z or any of our employees, we're all seeking to grow and develop. And what helps grow and develop us is when you can start giving us learning and development programs that are personalized to excite us to want to learn continuously. Let's now move on into some of the challenges we've had as learning and development professionals and what LinkedIn is doing to help us overcome some of these challenges. Now, we know, like we rightfully said earlier on, that in our generation of employees, that the challenge has always been how to excite them to develop this continuous culture of learning, how again to personalize that learning to the individual that is coming across on the online platform. Well, LinkedIn has understood this, LinkedIn has listened, and LinkedIn has now embedded artificial intelligence into our learning platform. So, our learning platform today hosts over 21,000 courses available for you to learn. So that might seem a little bit overwhelming for the individual in terms of what do I learn? What should I focus on for my particular role, or for me to grow into a leader, or for me to grow into a new role? So, with that, LinkedIn has provided AI coaching on the platform to help you now have a virtual assistant in terms of mentoring, coaching, and advising you on what to learn, which means for our learning and development professionals that for once in our careers, we are now in a situation where we can, at scale, roll out learning and development initiatives that are still personalized to the individual that's consuming. So, whether the individual is an intern, is an employee, or is a leader within our business, the AI side of our learning platform will now start helping to coach and start bringing out some of the courses and content that is recommended for that individual to grow in their own particular role. So, helping you scale is one of the areas that we're helping organizations with in terms of learning and development. In terms of learning and development, of course, we said one of the outcomes of learning and development is people being promoted into internal roles, people growing into internal opportunities that exist in your organization. But the question you might have for yourself right now is to say, then, well, if people are being grown or people are being given opportunities to grow into internal roles, who manages this process of growing people internally, this internal mobility? Well, what we did is we did some research, and we researched across our existing clients that have, of course, LinkedIn solutions for talent acquisition, branding, and hiring. But we also looked at those who are using our learning platform for talent development and retention. And what we found is that across organizations, in terms of responsibility, the responsibility for internal mobility predominantly sits today with your HR leaders. Your head of HR typically would lead up the initiative of identifying candidates and identifying those who would be geared, or those who would have the skills or alignment for the internal opportunities that your organization has. What we've also found, though, is that it's not a role that's done in silo by the HR director. This is a role where the HR director or head of HR would work in combination with talent acquisition, work in combination with you, learning and development professionals. It is you, the learning and development professionals, that will then leverage the platform to ensure that people are receiving the right skills at the right time for the right roles in which they play in your organization. So, from an internal orchestration perspective, we're seeing the head of HR leading the initiative around internal mobility and people being promoted, but working very closely with talent acquisition and working very closely, of course, with our colleagues in learning and development. As we get close now to wrapping up our live stream today, I don't see too many questions coming through, but I do see some questions, some comments, and of course, some comments coming through from those of you watching online. Thank you very much. And those of you who do have questions and comments, please continue to throw them online, and then we can bring up your face and answer your questions online. As we begin to wrap up, I want to start giving some advice around what we can start doing to succeed going ahead, giving some advice for you as a learning and development professional, giving some advice for your organization, and then giving you a link on where you can find the Workplace Learning Report, and of course, where you can book time with LinkedIn to go through your specific requirements and, of course, your specific needs. Now, as I said, and as I began this live stream, it wouldn't be a learning and development initiative unless we had some pop quiz questions. And here is the last one for this morning. The last one for this morning says here, and again, like we did earlier on, is just simply for you to say true or false in the comments. Section, is that 94% of employees say that they would stay at a company longer if the company invested in their learning and development. So the question is this true or false? That 94% of employees say they would stay at a company longer if the company invested in their learning and development. Would you say that's true or false? Well, the answer is it's true. 94% of us would stay with organizations if we firmly believe that those organizations were interested in growing our personal careers and developing us as individuals. So, if your organization is embracing this transformation and development agenda, then you're well in good stead to attract some of the best talent and also retain some of the best talent that is available out there. So, in terms of advice, what would be some of the advice I would give you as we start wrapping up our session? Advice number one: as a learning and development professional, I would edge and I would encourage you to start focusing on building up your analytic skills as an individual. What we have found is that by looking at our data across LinkedIn, is that 54% more than 54% of learning and development professionals on our platform today have started adding analytical skills onto their profiles in the last 12 months. So over 54% of learning and development professionals have added analytical skills onto their LinkedIn profiles. So the need for us to align the work that we do to measure return on investment and being able to articulate that return on investment against business goals is super important. And the way we can do that and the way we can achieve that is when we have a firm understanding around how to analyze data and how to analyze information that comes from the reports that are presented from the solution. Number two, what else should we be focusing on when it comes to analyzing data and looking at some of those analytics? What we should be looking at is analyzing those analytics and that data and measuring it by what matters. Oftentimes, and in the past before, as learning and development professionals, we've often measured vanity metrics, whether people enjoy the training, whether people like the venue, whether people thought the trainer was interesting and engaging. Those are what we would call vanity metrics. What we want to start measuring now and going forward as learning and development professionals is the impact and the performance of our learning initiatives against the things that matter. Whether it be against, of course, employee retention, our ability to attract, our ability to grow certain genders within our organization. These are the things that matter in terms of measuring the impact of learning. Whether we're aligning the impact of learning also with the activities that we do from a normal human resource perspective. So, one of the great ways of ensuring that learning and development becomes alive in your organization is ensuring that out of performance review activities, that learning initiatives or learning is recommended to those who are being reviewed. There's several ways for you as an organization to align learning and development with regular HR activities so that ultimately you'll be able to measure the impact of your learning initiatives. And that's why we're here to help you. When you partner with LinkedIn, it's not a question of subscribing to the platform and LinkedIn leaving you alone. When you partner with LinkedIn, we will meet up with you on a quarterly basis. And typically, we'll meet up with you with a customer success manager, where we will look at some of the usage metrics to understand what are people learning, What are the learnings you're prescribing? What are the learnings that your people or your community are learning without you driving them? And then how we can best make use of this information to continue to develop, to grow people, and of course, to continue to develop a thriving culture of learning in your organization. So, in short, what am I saying? You're not alone. When you partner with LinkedIn, you will meet up with your LinkedIn representative every quarter to ensure that you're getting return from the investments that you're making in our learning platform. Going forward, what is my third priority or my third recommendation for you? So I've talked about number one, leaning into analytics. Number two, leaning into metrics that matter. Number three would be for you as a learning and development professional to zoom in, zone in on your human skills. Now, more than ever, technology will replace us in terms of some of the traditional things that we used to do in terms of managing learning and development programs. What is needed, though, is for us to bring in our empathetic, our emotional intelligence, our mindfulness, our human skills into the conversation when it comes to developing programs for our interns, for our employees, or for our leaders. So, what I'm encouraging you to do as learning and development professionals is to focus on building your interpersonal, your storytelling, and of course, your data led discussions by building up your business acumen and your human skills. What is my fourth priority? My fourth priority, and probably my second last priority, is for you to embrace this world of constant change, to be ready for change. Change is changing faster, for lack of a better word, and that this change is upon us continuously, whether it be from a technology, from a process, or even how we interact with our external stakeholders, be it customers or those who fund us. So, with that in mind, we must be agile enough or adaptable enough to embrace this change that's going to be constant. And part of embracing that change that is constant and that is continuously coming at us is for us as learning and development professionals to invest in developing our own skills. I talked, of course, about developing your human skills, but here I want to emphasize the top 10 skills that we have found learning and development professionals investing in. I've already touched on some of these skills, being the human skills, analytical skills. But of course, what is missing from this list, as you can see from yourself, is of course skills to do with AI and of course to do with adaptability. I encourage you to have an agile mindset and to continuously make time for learning. The beauty with LinkedIn Learning is, of course, the learning is not just restricted to you learning off your desktop computer, but you can learn off your mobile device. So, what activity do you do where, of course, you have an opportunity to multitask? So, this could be commuting from work to home. This could be washing plates. This could be exercising. Whatever activity that allows you mindfully to multitask, then I encourage you to make time for learning. And these would be some of the skills I would encourage you, your leaders, and your employees to focus on in terms of learning. Going forward, what's next and what are the recommendations from us? So, first and foremost, LinkedIn, like I mentioned, has over 21,000 courses. And no, this is not an eye test to see if your eyes are working or not. This is just to give you an idea of our library. And our library at LinkedIn is really informed by, of course, when companies advertise jobs and, of course, are looking for certain skill sets. At LinkedIn, we get to look and understand the skills that companies are looking for and the skills that you as members have. And if there is a gap, we identify the best in class instructors, bring them into our studios. And by the way, we have the second biggest studios in the world. Bring them into our world class studios and record world class bite sized learning for you and for your community. What's more, what we've done beyond just having these 22,000 courses is structured these courses into three libraries: business library, creative library, and of course, a technology library to help us with all our digital transformation. What's more, not only have we arranged this by the three libraries that I've spoken about, we've also arranged the LinkedIn Learning courses by job roles. So today, if you get into LinkedIn Learning, you'll get the opportunity to see what skills are required to be an HR manager, to be a cybersecurity specialist, to be a recruiter, to be a finance director. All skills, or at least most skills that are required for jobs, we have been tactfully mapping these into job roles so that when you or your learners get onto the platform, you can be directionally correct on what skills are required for you to excel in a given job. So here's the beauty with our LinkedIn Learning platform is that today you can make available this platform to your employees. And from day one, your employees can leverage our AI to identify courses that are related to things they need to learn, or alternatively, they can use the role guide to identify courses that are aligned to specific roles they're doing in your company, and of course, what skills they need to excel in those to excel in that particular role. So 21,000 courses are for everyone across the faculty, across leaders, employees, across, of course, our interns and those that work in our organization. I talked, of course, just now earlier on about the courses, or at least the skills that are required for all learning and development professionals. I wanted to start ending off this live stream by highlighting holistically the skills required of all of us. So, in this live stream, I've shown you the skills required for recruiters. I've shown you the skills required for learning and development professionals, and I'm ending off the live stream by showing you the skills required by all of us, whether we're leaders, employees, whether we're entrepreneurs, or whether we are interns in an organization. And the overriding skills required around skills that we should be building, whether it's hard behavioral or intelligent business, or excuse me, whether it's across behavioral intelligence, hard skills, or soft skills, the overriding skill that is required is adaptability. And your adaptability will see you going forward, will carry you forward, whether it be through getting a job, getting a promotion, being elevated to being a leader, running your own business, or thriving in the world of work. So invest in skills that will show your adaptability. What's more, it goes without saying, artificial intelligence is an area that companies are increasingly focusing on, whether it's CEOs or whether it's recruiters that are focusing on artificial intelligence. Those skills are highly in demand. And I see here a colleague who joined me last week on Thursday, Dimitra, also confirming the fact that yes, adaptability is key and is the number one skill that is required across all professionals, and emphasizing on why you must grow that particular skill. So we've covered a lot today. We've covered the state of learning and development. We have covered the need for skills agility. We've covered how learning and development can power itself going forward by leveraging AI, leveraging the coaching that's on LinkedIn, leveraging the 21,000 courses, leveraging the role guides that come embedded with LinkedIn Learning. Going forward, if you're overwhelmed on where to start, I wanted to share with you this QR code. Because with this QR code, what is going to let you do, if you scan it or take a screen grab right now, with this QR code, what is going to let you do is see the Workplace Learning Report for 2024. And not only will you see the Workplace Learning Report for 2024, but I've also attached into the same shared folder the future of recruiting, so that you can see where there's a correlation between recruiters hiring for skills and, of course, you as learning and development professionals growing those skills internally so that people can be promoted into leadership roles or roles for dream jobs that they desire. So take a quick scan of that QR code, because that QR code will also help you gain an appointment with LinkedIn. So if you're looking to have one-on-one time with LinkedIn to talk about the skills that we've covered, how we can assist your learning and development team, how we measure results on a quarterly basis, how we ensure that you're getting return on investment, then definitely scan that QR code. And the second link you're going to see is a link on how to book time with myself so that we can talk specifically about your organization. Well, folks, we have reached the end of today's live stream, and I wanted to end it off with my favorite hashtag. Last week, my favorite hashtag was "It's time to shine." And of course, I mentioned the fact that it was time to shine as a learning and development professional, bringing through the best skills, developing those skills, and growing those skills. Well, this week's hashtag is "Make time for learning." A lot of us make excuses on a regular basis on why we're not investing in ourselves. There's not enough time. But there's enough time for you to scroll through your social media. There's enough time for you to watch entertainment channels. There is enough time for you to do other activities. Well, the one activity that will help you grow into the leader you want to become, into the employee you want to be, into the entrepreneur you aspire to be, would be in you investing in yourself. Make time for learning. Always be learning, and always be learning on LinkedIn Learning. Well, I don't see any questions in the chat. I'd like to thank you definitely for attending and for joining this session. Of course, the one thing that keeps us going is your feedback. So this is the time for you to be giving us your feedback. And if not your feedback, well, simple on LinkedIn, you can also give us a reaction. And the reaction is simple. It's just by you hitting those reaction buttons, whether you found this interesting, you found it useful, or you found it inspiring. And of course, we will be bringing up other live streams that are there to help you grow as a professional going forward. How are we ending off this live stream? We're ending off this live stream by showing you some of the new career development capabilities that we've built into LinkedIn Learning. And then lastly, I want to show you how a thriving university has been successful at implementing a learning and development program that enables their staff to stay up to date, that enables faculty to flip the classroom, that enables students to get skills for the jobs that they require. With that being said, I wish you a productive and a successful day. I look forward to you booking time with us, and I end off this live stream by sharing information on the new career development capabilities in LinkedIn Learning. Have a good day, folks. Goodbye.
Did you know employees who feel their skills aren't being put to good use are 10 times more likely to look for a new job? By empowering your learners to grow, you can help retain talent in your organization. That's why we're introducing career development features in LinkedIn Learning Hub. Together with our high-quality courses, comprehensive skills data, and full talent ecosystem, you can connect learning to real career growth. Now, when learners set their career goals in LinkedIn Learning Hub, they'll receive personalized content recommendations. And you can help them explore internal career paths with role guides, customizable to specific roles in your organization. Guide them to relevant learning based on their skill level with skill evaluations. And promote internal mobility by surfacing jobs at your organization within their learning experience. Explore these new features and help your learners achieve their career goals with LinkedIn Learning Hub, the skill-building solution with data and insights from the world's largest professional network.
I'm Dr. Raj Singh, Vice Chancellor, Jain University, Bangalore. Jain University is a large multidisciplinary university in Bangalore. We operate out of 7 campuses, wherein we offer under 26 academic departments, 138 programs. One of the objectives of higher education institution should be also to groom job creators. that can help not only in getting jobs for the students, but also addresses some of the national missions and priorities. Universities form a large part of the innovation system of the country, and therefore innovation and entrepreneurship has to be focus of any good institution like ours. When we subscribed to LinkedIn Learning, the first challenge we had was how to integrate into teaching learning process. We made a teaching learning plan of each subject or each course, as you call it. And let's say if a course is to be delivered over 40 hours, we said around 20% you must incorporate course modules from LinkedIn Learning. Online asynchronous part was largely served by LinkedIn Learning videos. After integrating LinkedIn Learning in our teaching learning plans, we made our students to subscribe to the link which was provided to us. What we found was absolutely fascinating, that they didn't stop at the videos we prescribed for them in the teaching learning plan. They went much beyond this. And after about 3 to 4 months, when we reviewed with the help of LinkedIn Analytics, we found that on average, each student had seen 51 videos. So in our students, we don't have to develop an approach where they acquire quantity of knowledge. Rather, our intention is, or objective is, to develop in them a capacity to continuously learn.
LinkedIn Learning offers a plethora of programs for us to access, be it on well-being, be it on how to gain Excel skills, be it on public speaking or communications. They are certification-based. So this way, I'm learning a new skill and also gaining a certification for that particular skill. This is not just making me relevant to the industry, but is also helping me upskill in my career.
LinkedIn courses took our students beyond what was prescribed in the curriculum, and that has been one of the objectives we've been trying to serve. We could incorporate skills in our course curriculum which we have been wanting to inculcate in our students, but were not able to do it because of lack of appropriate content or the faculty members, because we got ready-made contents from them. We came to know about many skills which industry had been wanting. We could rather draw a list of priority in terms of which skills were preferred most by the people, not only in India but globally. So we have used LinkedIn videos in almost all the disciplines we offer at Jain University: management, engineering, science. We could find enough number of videos which could help us structure our program curriculum. The students benefited immensely. We also used it extensively for faculty development. Best thing I found on LinkedIn Learning portal was that the inventory of skill set which LinkedIn maintains is updated continuously, almost in real time. And therefore, students or faculty, whoever is there on the LinkedIn, is constantly aware of what market needs. So when I think of the future of higher education, I have 3 recommendations for universities anywhere in the world. The first one is they need to co-create the curriculum, co-create with industry. The second recommendation I have for the universities is to leverage technology and harness the ingenuity of youth. And this can be done by creating differentiated contents in advanced technology areas and also developing distinguished teaching learning processes in the university system. The third recommendation for the universities is that they need to now extend research beyond academic research and get into the domain of innovation and practice. By taking research to innovation and practice, we will be able to serve the purpose of being an academic institution in true sense, because we will be providing real life solutions not only to the industry but also to the community and the society.